Chapter 116. Suanan replied lazily, I should leave such a good man to Suzy Han. Suzy Han stared at Suanan's smile, her eyes filled with anger. How could she not hear Suanan's ridicule? How could she not see Mujinyu's infatuated gaze on Suanan? Even so, Suanan had used some tricks and snatched Mujinyu away. Zihan, you go in first, Janmei said. The host inside came out to urge Suzihan and Mujinyu. Suzihan clenched her teeth, feeling indignant, but said that she had walked in. Mujinyu followed her in. He walked in front of Suanan, took a glance, and followed her inside. When Suanan saw them going in to get married, she thought to herself that it would be boring to make a call for Uncle Chen to come pick her up. My friends, reporters, today is the wedding day of my daughter. Don't write about it randomly. As Suanan was thinking, Janmei said to the surrounding reporters. Her words did not harm Suanan at all, but when Suanan saw her smiling face, she knew in her heart that the latter half of her words were aimed at her. Sure enough, Janmei continued. And An was young and insensible. She stole her own brother-in-law, and last time she caused Zihan a small loss of income. But this is all part of a Su family. You shouldn't write about it. Even though she had said such white lies, she still couldn't get anyone to write it out. Janmei is better at speaking than Su Zihan. When Suanan gets the headlines tomorrow, she would definitely say, I already told the reporters not to write anything. How did they even write anything? Suanan pursed her lips into a smile as she looked at Janmei. And An, are we still going in? When she asked, Suanan still did not answer, but a voice came over. Everyone, it's better if you do not write randomly. Otherwise, Mr. Gu will be angry if he knows about this. Following the direction of the voice, Uncle Chen walked out of the crowd to the front. When Suanan saw Uncle Chen, she laughed. Just now, Uncle Chen said to stop the car and let her go in first. Mr. Gu? All of them looked towards Uncle Chen. Our teacher is Gumo Cheng. With that, Uncle Chen walked over to Suanan's side and said, Madam, let's go in to watch the ceremony. There's a gift you haven't received yet. The appearance of Uncle Chen with the words Mr. Gu and Madam clearly told the people around that Suanan was Gumo Cheng's wife. They had never heard of this matter before. They wanted to step forward and continue questioning, but when they thought of the two words Gumo Cheng, they didn't dare to step forward and ask. Janmei recognized Uncle Chen. Last time, he was the one who came with Uncle Chen, and she can still clearly remember the 10 slaps she took to Su Zihan. She had been pressing on her chest the entire time without letting out any of her anger. She thought of his mother, old lady Zhang, also coming to the wedding site. It would be better to go and tell An about it in front of the old lady now. While thinking, Janmei walked in. At the wedding ceremony, the host was on stage praising Mujinyu and Su Zihan, talking about the golden couple. Su Zihan suppressed her anger and revealed a smile as she pulled Mujinyu closer, afraid that Mujinyu would run over to look for her. Although Mujinyu said that he wanted to leave with Suanan, why would he do such a thing? That would embarrass the Mu family. As for marrying Su Zihan would help him take control of the Mu family. How could he abandon Su Zihan, who had a background in the Zhang family, and instead marry Suanan, who was related to another man? Jiang Mei walked over to old lady Jiang, and when old lady Jiang saw her, she stared at Jiang Mei with her sharp eyes. Mom, Suanan is here, but Gumo Cheng's men are following her. No matter what method you use, tie her up and bring her to the Jiang family, the old lady snapped. Jiang Mei had originally come over, wanting to take advantage of old lady Jiang to deal with Suanan. Listening to her words, she didn't want to offend Gumo Cheng. Mom, Suwa has something that he needs from Gumo Cheng recently. If I offend him, Suwa will be unhappy. Old lady Jiang said sarcastically. That is your problem. Her darling grandson was injured to such an extent by Suanan. How could Suanan be at ease? Just as Jiang Mei was about to say something, the banquet suddenly became noisy, and she keenly heard Su Zihan's cries during the noisy banquet. Hurry, hurry, turn off this video. Who allowed you to broadcast this movie? Jiang Mei lifted her head and looked over. When she saw the contents of the large screen, she was stunned, and when she saw the shocked expressions on Mu Jinyu and his wife's faces, she knew that things were not going well. Suanan did not follow Jiang Mei in immediately. Uncle Chen said that Gumo Cheng wanted her to make a call. When she came in, she was wearing formal attire and gave her phone to Uncle Chen. Hubby. Suanan called out happily when she heard the voice. You came to pick me up? When she heard that Gumo Cheng had come, she said in shock. Didn't you say that you have something to busy yourself with? All right, wait for me in the lobby in 10 minutes. Yes, Suanan immediately replied. Right now she just wanted to go to the main hall to wait for Gumo Cheng. When Suanan gave her phone to Uncle Chen, he heard the noises in the banquet hall. She looked at Uncle Chen and Uncle Chen smiled. Mistress, I don't want to go in to take a look. Suanan had a premonition that the noise inside was related to Gumo Cheng. She walked in and stood at the door to clearly see the movie on the big screen. The film was being repeated in a loop with very short content. From Su Zihan pouncing over to Suanan falling down, it had only been about 10 seconds. However, this scene was being played continuously, afraid that others would not know that Su Zihan fell down. When Su Zihan saw this, she had already collapsed. She did not care about her image and rushed up the stage while shouting, Turn it off! Turn it off immediately. She roared. It was too late for Junmei to stop her, even if she wanted to. When the two of them mentioned the matter of Suzihan wrestling at Old Man Mu's birthday feast, they had always insisted on pushing the matter to Suanan. How was it possible that Suanan pushed this film? It was obvious that Suzihan had gone and hit Suanan herself, and because she did not stand steadily, she fell down hard onto the ground. That was the truth. Suanan didn't really feel anything when she saw it. She didn't have anything to be sad about being wronged by those people. As long as she cared about them and trusted in them, it would be enough. Suanan turned to leave, but Uncle Chen said, "Madam, there's one more film." Eh? Suanan turned and looked at Uncle Chen. "Teacher told me." Uncle Chen laughed and said, "Sir said that even though the matter is over, we have to return Madam's innocence." Give her back her innocence? The last time Old Lady Gu came to Mu family to testify for her, wasn't it already returned? However, Suanan guessed that since Suzihan and the others knew about her relationship with Old Lady Gu, they would definitely think that this was a fake evidence. They would plot how Gu Mocheng and she had bullied them in front of the Mu family. Suanan really did not care what the Muis thought of her. She would not be sad for someone who was unrelated to her. No matter what, when Gu Mocheng said he could restore her innocence, she was very happy. "Bastard, who told you to release this film?" While Suanan was talking with Uncle Chen, Suzihan had already rushed up the stage. In front of all the guests, she swung her palm towards the female assistant standing beside the computer and struck her opponent. With just one slap, everyone was stunned, especially Mu Jinyu and his wife. Chapter 117. The viciousness in Suzihan's eyes made them feel that she was a completely different person. How could she possibly be the gentle and generous daughter-in-law that they fancied? Old Man Mu had already seen through Suzihan's personality long ago, but he wasn't surprised when he saw the footage on the screen, and when he saw Suzihan skillfully slapping her, he only frowned slightly and didn't say anything. Mu Jin had chosen this marriage for his son. It had nothing to do with him. Mu Jinyu and he had quarreled before, but he had never seen the other expression on Suzihan's face. No matter what, if a gentle girl suddenly became a shrew, everyone would feel like they had been cheated. "Zihan." Suhua bellowed with a gloomy face. Suzihan's actions had made him lose face. Junmei saw Suzihan rush up the stage to beat her up. She immediately ran up to her. She didn't even look at her daughter's temper when she heard her. She had to hurry up and stop her. With so many guests present, how could they possibly throw a tantrum and beat someone up? After Suzihan typed in the descendant, she pressed on the screen as if her life depended on it, wanting to turn off the video that was being played on the big screen. But after she pressed it for half a day, the film still went on. When she saw that she was the one who went up and hit Suanan, she wanted to get angry. The film suddenly stopped and the big screen went black. Just when Suzihan thought that this was the end of the matter, a scene popped out. The main character on the screen was no longer Suzihan, but a doctor dressed in a white gown. Suzihan didn't recognize the person, but she did recognize him in an instant. This doctor was someone that she had bribed with checks to tell him that Suzihan had given birth to a child from a small family. What was going on now? Why did he appear in the movie? Because this doctor, even Junmei could not remain calm. She stepped on her sharp high heels and rushed to the stage. "Zihan, quickly, turn off the video." "No, unplug the computer." While speaking, Junmei was in a hurry to leave, so she did not see the ground clearly. Junmei, as the bride's mother of today, wore a bright red qipao that revealed half of her thighs. Seeing this, Sua's face turned even more ashen. What the hell was this mother and daughter pair up to? They had completely disgraced him. Suhua and his wife, Mu Jinyu, and the old lady Jiang were also feeling embarrassed. Suzihan looked at Jiang Mei, who had fallen on the ground, and quickly swatted down to find the power source. The doctor in the film was already beginning to speak. Miss Su, here's $200,000. As a doctor, I can't accept money without a conscience." While he was speaking, Suzihan unplugged the power supply, and the screen on the screen went black. Seeing that the power supply had been cut off, the film did not show anything else, allowing Jiang Mei, who had crawled up from the ground, to heave a sigh of relief. Suzihan gasped for breath, and the corners of her mouth raised into a smile. The older the better. Jiang Mei crawled up from the ground, the calmer she pretended to be. She turned a blind eye to the strange looks the audience was giving her. "Guests, there was a small episode earlier. I'm truly sorry." Was it an episode? The bride pulled at the hem of her wedding dress as she ran up the stage, and even slapped the female assistant. The bride's mother tripped and threw out her panties in order to prevent the film from being shown. Even a fool could tell that this was no small matter. The guests started discussing. They wanted to continue watching the doctor's film, and thought that the doctor's words must be very explosive. For face, Mu Jin indicated for Mu Jinyu to come up onto the stage with a gloomy face. This wedding ceremony had not even started, and already ended, but Mu Jinyu had already received their certificates. Mu Jinyu looked at the exquisite makeup on Suzihan's face again, and suddenly didn't like her at all. Previously, when he went to look for Suanan, he had also married Suzihan. To put it bluntly, he wanted to eat both sides. When he saw Su Zihan's ferocious-looking face, he was suddenly annoyed by her. They had no choice but to marry. Brother-in-law, quickly go up the stage and find big sister Zihan. Suya was Su Zihan's bridesmaid. Whether it was the argument between Su Zihan and Su Zihan, or the current scene, she had all seen it. It was true that Su Zihan did not want her to be her bridesmaid, but when the second Aunt Su brought out the old granny, she immediately pressured Su Hua. Suya was smart, her bridesmaid understood her duty, and did not dress up beautifully. However, in Su Zihan's eyes, no matter how beautiful Suya's clothing was, it couldn't compare to hers. She just gave her an opportunity to follow behind her. Mu Jinyu looked at Suya, who was behind him, and unwillingly brought his flowers. As the bride's mother, I apologize for the incident. Jung Mei stood on stage, she took the microphone in the host's hand, and said with an elegant and generous smile. Zihan has always been an obedient daughter. She hopes to marry the man she likes. However, a while ago, because of some emotional issues, she was harmed by someone. Jung Mei opened her eyes wide and lied and pushed the blame towards Su Anan. Although she did not mention the name, but the matter between Su Anan and her had been reported by the media before, even though it was later plotted against by Xiaoyan. However, this matter had spread very quickly. It was said that the two Su families had fought over a man with their gold coins. What you see may not be true. As Jung Mei spoke, she found Su Anan, who was seated at the very back. Some people do whatever it takes to wrongly accuse Zihan. Su Anan laughed disapprovingly upon hearing Jung Mei's words. If Gu Mocheng had not asked her to wait here, she would have left long ago. As soon as she finished, the big screen lit up again. Mu Jinyu, who was walking up the stage, slowed down his footsteps. When Jung Mei heard the voice, she immediately turned around. Zihan, quickly unplugged the power supply. Su Zihan was puzzled. She had already unplugged the power source from the computer earlier. What was going on? Jung Mei went over and saw that the computer had been unplugged. She looked around, and the people below were all excited because of the doctor's words. As a doctor, I can't accept your money without a conscience, so I have something to tell them here. The doctor did not say it immediately, but paused. Su Zihan and Jung Mei were so anxious that they felt like ants on a hot pan. They knew what the doctor was going to say. The rest of their words would be enough to finish them off. Zihan, the main source of power. Quick, the main source of power. Saying that, Jung Mei saw the power switch at the back. She connected to it, wanting to turn off the image when the doctor told her the truth. Last time, Miss Su Zihan was sent to the hospital because of wrestling. After my inspection, besides the bruises from the wrestling and blood flowing from her skin, Miss Su Zihan did not have any other condition. Later on, I found out that Miss Su Zihan was pregnant. Pa! Following the doctor's command, Jung Mei successfully turned off the main power switch. Seeing that the entire banquet hall had turned dark, Jung Mei pursed her lips into a smile. Chapter 118. Her smile did not last 2 seconds because the doctor's words continued behind her back. However, Miss Su Zihan doesn't have much hope for this child. Jung Mei looked at the doctor on the screen behind her, saw his mouth moving, and her entire being was standing there foolishly. It's over. Her Zihan's next life is over. Standing in front of the main switch, Su Zihan was dumbfounded when she saw that she did not switch off the video. She had turned off the main switch, so why was the video still playing? Quick. Close it, she added harshly, not knowing who to say it to. After that, no one paid attention to Su Zihan's words. The entire banquet hall became quiet the moment the doctor opened her mouth, and everyone held their breath as they quietly stared at the big screen. Miss Su Zihan's fall did not cause any miscarriage. It was only a little bit of blood. Hearing the doctor's words, Lady Mu tightened her clothes. If the child didn't fall from a wrestling match, then it was. I heard the conversation between Madame Su and Miss Su Zihan. Miss Su Zihan felt that if she gave birth to a child, her appearance would definitely change, and she would definitely not want that child. Madame Su told Miss Su Zihan that without this child, she would not be able to marry into the Mu family. However, Miss Su Zihan is very determined to not let this child go. She will beat him up, no matter what. There's no other way. Madame Su can only agree. They were afraid that the beating of the child would affect Miss Su Zihan from marrying into the Mu family, hence they decided to push the matter to a person called Su Anan. The doctor said, making it clear. Madame Su came to find me at the back. She gave me 200,000 yuan and told me to kick the child out. Hearing these words, the quiet banquet hall became noisy, and the guests began to discuss once again. She told me to tell the people outside that the child in Miss Su Zihan's womb fell and disappeared. Oh my God. It turned out Su Zihan didn't push Su Zihan away. It was Su Zihan herself who threw the child away. Lady Mu and Mu Jin looked at each other, shocked to the point that they couldn't believe it. To think that there would be someone who would ruthlessly beat the child away in order to maintain their figure. This person was even the daughter-in-law that they had chosen 1,000 times. Lady Mu felt her head going dizzy. When she heard that Su Zihan was pregnant with Jin Yu, she was so hopeful and happy. After knowing that Su Anan had pushed the child away, she wanted to angrily send Su Anan to the station so that she could pay the price for losing her grandson. Unexpectedly, it was Suzihan herself who didn't want it. What kind of wife is she picking for Jinyu? Too vicious. Lady Mu held her head. There was no need to continue with the wedding. The film went black after the doctor had said what he needed to say, and then the lights came back on in the ballroom. Jiang Mei, who was on stage, reacted and immediately said to the guests, "Everyone, don't listen to the words of the people in the movie. Don't believe it." Because of her guilt, she no longer had her usual calmness. Her hands were trembling, and even her voice was trembling. Jiang Mei looked down at Su Hua, who had a cold expression, and did not come out to say anything for her. Once she returned to the Su family, she would inevitably be questioned by Su Hua. The most important thing right now was Zihan. Just as she was thinking about Su Zihan, Mu Jinyu's cold voice came from the side. "Su Zihan, you are vicious." After looking at the doctor's film, Mu Jinyu walked to Su Zihan's side after turning on the light. He had a gloomy face and should have swung his palm towards Su Zihan, but his hand was injured and he could not lift it. Therefore, he walked to Su Zihan, and without caring about the presence of all the guests, he directly kicked Su Zihan. It was all because of Su Zihan. If not for her, she would never have left her. Su Zihan never thought that Mu Jinyu would actually dare to hit her in front of so many people, and it was Mu Jinyu who chased after her first. What's the big deal now? She was kicked in the stomach, and the pain made her cry out. "Mu Jinyu, hit me." Su Zihan became angry and threw a punch towards Mu Jinyu without a care. How could a person with a broken hand like Mu Jinyu be a match for the crazy Su Zihan? He was beaten up by Su Zihan until he was forced to retreat. Even as he was retreating, he accidentally fell to the ground. His hands, which had not been in good condition, had been thrown wrong again. He was in so much pain that cold sweat appeared on his forehead as he stared angrily at Su Zihan. "You bitch, I want to divorce you." The scene was so chaotic that none of the guests wanted to get up and leave. They wanted to see how the bride and groom would fight each other. And their families would fight as well. How could the reporters, who were called in by the Mourinho, miss such a great opportunity? The expressions of Su Zihan and Jiang Mei, who had fallen to the ground in a sorry state, were well captured by the cameras. When they came, they were told to take pictures today and go back and write stories. Seeing his son's hand break again, Lady Mu stood up with a pained heart and walked over. Wu Jin looked at Old Man Mu beside him, wanting him to step out and settle this matter. Old Man Mu closed his eyes and ignored him. Mu Jin's brother gloated while smiling. "Jin Yu has married a good wife. This daughter-in-law was really not bad. For her own beauty, she beat up the Mu family's seed mercilessly and even framed someone else." Mu Jin was afraid that the matter would blow up, hence he followed Lady Mu. This matter stopped here and could not continue. As for getting Mu Jinyu and Su Zihan to divorce each other, that would have to be said later. "Send Jinyu to the hospital," Mu Jin said to Lady Mu. Lady Mu went over to support Mu Jinyu, but was supported up by others. When he saw Mu Jinyu's pale face, he felt extremely pained. "My dear mother, allow Zihan to accompany Jinyu," Jiang Mei said. Her face was gloomy as she stared coldly at Jiang Mei. Su Zihan was definitely the one who taught him how to be vicious. She had heard of how Jiang Mei forced her ex-wife to death before, but she didn't think so. She thought it was just a rumor. But after today's incident, Lady Mu understood Jiang Mei's character. "I don't dare to bother you. I'm afraid that my son's feet will be crippled by her." With that, Lady Mu accompanied Mu Jinyu out of the banquet hall. Su Zihan clenched her fists as she watched Mu Jinyu leave. Mu Jin went up on stage and said a few more things to let guests eat and drink well. A guest smiled and asked, "Director Mu, do you still want to get married? The groom is in the hospital." After he finished speaking, the people below the stage roared with laughter. Mu Jin's face lost all of its luster, and without saying a word, he walked down the stage with a gloomy face. But how could the guests have the mood to eat? All of them were discussing Su Zihan and Mu Jinyu below. As Su Zihan was being pointed at and discussed, she clenched her fists. She had never seen such a scene. Why did the doctor come out and say she was all right? It must be because of Su Anan. When she was thinking about it, she found Su Anan at the spot she was at a moment ago, but discovered that Su Anan is no longer here. After the doctor finished speaking, Su Anan got up and left. The reason she left was simple. Gumo Cheng said that she would be in the hall in 10 minutes. She had to go downstairs to look for Gumo Cheng. What kind of story would happen at the banquet, she would find out through the internet later. There was no need to waste her time there. She followed Uncle Chen downstairs and stood in the great hall, waiting for Gumo Cheng. Chapter 119, Hubby. The moment Gumo Cheng entered, Su Anan saw him. There was no helping it. Her husband was beautiful, and with a glance, he could attract the woman's attention. Before she could walk over, the general manager of the hotel hurried over with his men. "Yes, sir." Su Anan looked at the general manager of the hotel and recalled that the hotel was owned by the Gus. No wonder he knew Gumo Cheng. Gumo Cheng nodded his head towards them. When he came, he had his assistants arrange everything, and he was not worried about the matters of the wedding banquet with Uncle Chen. He was only here to accompany the little girl for a meal. "Anan, come here," Gumo Cheng said to Su Anan and indicated for her to go over. Su Anan walked over with a smile. The general manager saw that Suanan was young and pretty and praised Suanan. Teacher's niece is so beautiful. Just as he said that, Gumo Cheng's face darkened. Suanan was startled, then covered her mouth and laughed. Niece? Haha, standing together with Gumo Cheng, there won't be a lot of people who will treat her as Gumo Cheng's niece, right? That's right, there was a 10-year difference between them. Even if Gumo Cheng was good-looking, his age would still leave a mark on his face. Gumo Cheng's face turned cold. The hotel's general manager realized that he said the wrong thing. Although Gumo Cheng was in his 30s, it was normal for him to find a girlfriend. Sir, you stay with madam. I'll go home first. The Uncle Chen standing behind Suanan said to him. My lady? That was the correct name. The manager was able to climb to his current position. He must have had the ability to observe people's expressions. Madam Gu is so beautiful. Yes. Gumo Cheng responded as he reached out to grab Suanan's small hand. Hungry? He asked softly. Without realizing it, when he spoke to Suanan, his voice would naturally soften, and even his gaze would become gentle. Suanan realized that she had not eaten anything tonight after Gumo Cheng's reminder. To come to the wedding banquet, they should have had a good meal, but seeing the wedding between Mu Jinyu and Mu Jinyu, eating was not the main point. It was better to watch the show. How do you know I'm hungry? Suanan asked. This was Gumo Cheng's territory. Uncle Chen had previously said that Gumo Cheng wanted her to be innocent, so he had arranged for Su Zihan to fall down and for the doctor. Could it be that Su Zihan and Jiang Mei had switched off the power in the banquet hall, and the video on the screen continued? Was this a gift from Gumo Cheng? Let's go to the second floor to eat. Gumo Cheng laughed and held Suanan's hand as they walked in. Suanan's hands were held by his large hands, and it was like she was drinking honey in her heart as she walked. She simply held Gumo Cheng's arm with her two hands and stuck her face to him. It was a new feeling, and her heart was full of happiness. The two of them walked towards the direction of the stairs. Mu Jinyu's face was pale white, because he had fallen quite hard on the ground, causing him great pain. When they saw Suanan hugging Gumo Cheng, they were stunned for a moment, and then continued to walk forward. Mu Jinyu wanted to pester Suanan, but he couldn't. His hands were in pain. Suanan and Gumo Cheng did not stop just because of him. They continued to walk forward. The elevator door suddenly opened, and Su Zihan, who was out chasing after Mu Jinyu, saw him and was stunned. Then, her gaze landed on Gumo Cheng. Su Zihan had never seen Gumo Cheng before. The last time she saw Gumo Cheng, she was also only able to see his back figure outside the Su family. When she saw Gumo Cheng's face, Su Zihan was immediately stunned. Su Zihan stared at Gumo Cheng, thinking that Suanan's luck was good. The man that she found was beautiful. Wearing a famous suit, it was hard to tell how shabby she looked like. This man definitely could not be Gumo Cheng. It was impossible for Gumo Cheng to be so good-looking. It must be Suanan's lover who was outside. When Suanan saw Su Zihan, she was also startled. She did not expect her to run out just like that while wearing her wedding dress. Shouldn't she be stabilizing the guests at the banquet? Why would she come out and embarrass herself? Suanan, it's all because of this bitch. When Su Zihan thought about everything that had happened at the banquet, she immediately pushed all the blame onto Suanan. Tell me, did you put that film on? Was it you who called the doctor? Su Zihan asked angrily. Suanan replied lightly. Isn't that the truth in the movie? The doctor is also telling the truth. Since it's the truth, what are you angry about, Su Zihan? Everything was done by Su Zihan. What does it have to do with anyone else? It was obvious that Su Zihan was used to being arrogant and despotic. She did not know how to reflect on herself. It was because they thought Suanan was wrong that led to the situation today. She thought about the discussions of the guests at the banquet, thought about how Mu Jinyu had called her evil, thought about how cold Su Hua's eyes were, and how a ball of fury was rolling in his heart. She rushed over and raised her palm to slap Suanan ruthlessly. Suanan did not dodge. She did not even need to do so. Because she knew that the man beside her was Gumo Cheng, and he would take care of her. Since Su Zihan's palm did not land on her hand, she was unable to hit him. When the palm fell, Gumo Cheng grabbed her hand and then pushed hard, causing her to fall down in a low voice. Su Zihan was wearing a thick and heavy wedding dress, and she had been holding onto her skirt the entire time she was running, so as she fell, her entire body was covered with layers of wedding gowns. Seeing Su Zihan running out, Jiang Mei was worried that something was going to happen to her, so she followed her out. When she saw Su Zihan waving her hand to hit Suanan, it was already too late to stop her. She could only watch as Gumo Cheng pulled Su Zihan's hand and pushed her down. Zihan! Jiang Mei called out in a hurry as she ran over to help Su Zihan up. What happened tonight was already very bad. Why did Zihan still run out to provoke Suanan? Zihan, mother will send you home. Jiang Mei went over to help Su Zihan, and she turned her head to look at Su Ya, who had followed her out, and said angrily, What are you standing there for? Hurry up and help big sister Zihan up. Su Ya, who was running out of the elevator, was startled when she saw Gumo Cheng. Her eyes fell on Gumo Cheng, and seeing him look at her, she lowered her head with a red face. Su Ya didn't hear Jiang Mei calling her. Su Ya! Jiang Mei anxiously shouted. She could not support Su Zihan, who was wearing the wedding dress. Suya came back to reality and helped Junmei up. Suzihan threw herself into Junmei's embrace and started crying. Mother, it was Suanan who harmed me. It was her who harmed me. Junmei doted on her daughter a lot, and because of this, Suzihan became arrogant and willful, and developed a self-serving personality. Suanan. Junmei looked at Suanan. She said those harsh words, and then her gaze landed on the man beside Suanan. It's you again? Junmei had seen this man before in the hospital. Suanan was really bold. She brought her lover to Gu's hotel. Even now, Junmei and the others did not expect that what happened at the banquet was promoted by Gu Mocheng alone. He wanted to return Suanan's innocence. Mother, do not let Suanan go. Suanan, that slut, she has caused me such a mess. Suzihan said while crying. It was Suanan who put those things at the banquet. Suzihan complained to Junmei. Chapter 120. No matter what happened, it was Suanan who harmed her. Hearing Suanan's words, Junmei's gaze towards her turned cold. Suanan, you really desire the world to be free from chaos. As she was speaking, she thought of a way to wash off the stains on Su Zihan's body. Suanan, come with me now and tell all the guests that you didn't like Zihan, so you faked the films and bribed the doctors to frame Zihan. Junmei's method was really powerful. Suanan apologized on the spot, adding the fact that Junmei was good with her words. Suanan intentionally created the matter at the banquet out of jealousy. Auntie, the film is real, and what the doctor said is true. Suanan reminded. You want her to take the blame for Su Zihan. You're overthinking it. Seeing Suanan reject her without hesitation, Junmei got angry. She glared at Suanan hatefully and threatened. Anan, don't forget about the people from Su family. These words were hidden, but Suanan understood what she meant. Suanan felt helpless and used her sister to threaten herself. If she didn't help Su Zihan, she would take revenge on her sister. However, her man was now Gu Mocheng. She didn't want to be threatened by them until she obeyed. Tell daddy about it, Suanan replied. Suwa was begging Gu Mocheng right now. How could she let Junmei do whatever she wanted with her sister? Junmei was clear about how much Suwa valued her now. He was only threatening with his mouth, but could not do anything to him. However, Zihan had to come out and take the blame. Suanan really did not want to talk to them anymore. She pulled on Gu Mocheng's clothes and said, Hubby, let's go. She did not want to be affected by Su Zihan and Junmei. Gu Mocheng looked at Suanan and he released her hand. The reason she released the truth of Su Zihan's fall was to let Su Zihan and the others understand that Anan was not someone they could bully as they please. Unexpectedly, Su Zihan hadn't seen this point clearly yet. You can't leave. What if you leave, Zihan? Seeing that Suanan was about to leave, Junmei stepped forward and pulled her hand. Gu Mocheng looked at Junmei with a dark expression and said coldly, let go. Junmei was startled. This man scared her, so she immediately let go of her hand. I never hit women, but if you guys dare to go against Suanan, I don't mind letting you hit me myself. Gu Mocheng said coldly. The threat in his words made Su Zihan shudder. Then she recalled that she was the miss of Su family, the niece of the old lady Zhang, and this man was merely the lover that Suanan had found. What kind of person was he? Suanan, you are truly shameless. You followed the Mr. Gu for money, and even carried the Mr. Gu on your back to find a man. Bitch, you're such a bitch. He frowned when he heard such nasty words. He turned and said to the hotel manager behind him, What are you all standing there for? Throw her out of the hotel. As the cold words left her mouth, Jingmei felt that something was amiss. Was the man in front of her just Suanan's lover? No. It didn't look like it. This was because hotel manager had listened to the man's words and called for the security guards. Su Zihan was held back by the hotel security guards and struggled furiously. What are you doing? I am the daughter of the Su family, your esteemed guest. However, as Su Zihan shouted, the security guards completely ignored her and carried her out the door. Let me go. Let me go. Su Zihan moved desperately. Her men were lifted off the ground by the security guards. She kicked her legs with all her might, but these movements did not make the security guards put her down. Anxious, she turned her head to look at Junmei behind her and started crying. Mommy, quickly come and save me. Seeing that her precious daughter was being supported out by two security guards, Junmei anxiously rushed forward and grabbed onto their clothes and shouted angrily, Let go. Release my daughter. If you dare touch my daughter again, Su family and I will not forgive you. It was indeed mother and daughter. Junmei and Su Zihan's words were extremely similar. As Junmei was playing security, she heard the man's ice-cold voice come from behind her. I've said it before. If you bully my wife again, you will pay me back double. Hearing that, Junmei stopped moving. She remembered that when Gu Mocheng's men came to the Su family to beat Zihan up, they had also said the same thing. She remembered the words Gu Mocheng's group left behind before they left was, Our master said, double this time, and 100 times the next time we fight. The man protecting Suanan was not Suanan's lover, but the name that was about to come out caused Junmei to be stunned in place, and she did not dare to fight with the security guards for Su Zihan anymore. Gu Mocheng. Just as Junmei was in a daze, a sharp voice cut in. Suanan looked towards the source of the voice and saw an old lady walking out from the elevator. She was about the same age as old lady Gu. but her eyes were filled with ruthlessness, not as clear as old lady Gu's. This person was Jiang Mei's mother? Old lady Jiang. Su Anan had seen her once on Su Zihan's 10-year-old birthday dinner. The old lady Jiang had held great authority in the Jiang family for many years. She had toiled for many years and could not even be considered as good as the old lady Gu. Old lady Jiang, Gu Mocheng called out. After fighting with the Jiang family for so many years, this old lady was even more ruthless than him. Gu Mocheng didn't like her, but the old lady Gu hated her even more. Mo Cheng, give me some face. My granddaughter has offended you. For the sake of the Jiang family, you don't need to throw her out of the hotel. Old lady Jiang said to Gu Mocheng as he approached. After she finished speaking, she looked towards Su Anan, who was behind Gu Mocheng. Su Anan caused her grandson's death, so the old lady Jiang had to remember her well. With so many people watching, we will leave Jiang family some face. The old lady Jiang said with a smile. Because when Su Zihan went downstairs, there were some reporters following her. When they saw that Su Zihan was going to call Su Anan, they called their comrades down. Not long later, there were a lot of people in the hall. Gu Mocheng looked at the smiling old lady Jiang. Saying that, he got the hotel manager to release Su Zihan. When Su Zihan landed on the ground, she immediately turned and ran towards Su Anan. She was really not afraid of death. Gu Mocheng had let her go on behalf of the old lady Jiang. She had to make a fuss again. He is Gu Mocheng. Su Zihan heard their conversation and asked in disbelief. How could he be Gu Mocheng? Gu Mocheng is ugly and old. Why is he so good looking? Su Anan, you must have found a man outside to disguise as Gu Mocheng. You little slut, you truly are shameless. Su Zihan's words made Gu Mocheng's face darken. He regretted giving old lady Jiang some face and released Su Zihan. Before Gu Mocheng could speak, old lady Jiang walked closer to him. Grandma, help me redress my grievances. When she saw old lady Jiang, her tears fell. She didn't even have time to say what she had felt before she received a slap from the old lady. The old lady was used to beating people. Although she was old, her hand strength was not small. How dare you? Old lady Jiang said harshly, her slap causing Su Zihan's face to turn green. Did Su Zihan really want to throw her out of the hotel? After throwing away the hotel, she became the first bride in history to be thrown out by the hotel owner on the day of her wedding. To lose face, simply to the point of losing all the face of the Jiang family. Grandmother. She covered her painful face and said while crying, he's obviously the fake Gu Mocheng.